Do you have an AV receiver, a processor with separate amps, or any other type of AV equipment that seems to be getting a little hotter than it should be? Well, if so, then you may find this video extremely helpful, because today I'm going to be showing you 3 different products from AC Infinity that can not only extend the life of your gear, but it can also save you the headache of replacing those expensive components due to overheating. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then stick around and we'll get into it right after the intro. Alright, so as I mentioned, today we have 3 component coolers. One of them, the S6, that I already own, and the other 2 courtesy of AC Infinity, who were kind enough to send these over to us so we could take a look at them and let you know exactly what we think. The idea behind cooling AV components is actually pretty simple. They use fans to circulate more air through the chassis of whatever you're trying to cool, and by doing that you end up lowering the internal temps. Now of course you can only cool something down to the ambient temperature of the room you're in, but that's usually plenty to extend the life of your gear. Alright, so with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the units and go over some of their features. First, we have the Aircom S9, which has dual 120mm fans that exhaust out the back of the unit. You can also get these in top exhaust depending on your particular needs. Now all of the Aircom series coolers have the ability to be programmed, and the higher you move up in models, the more programming options you get. The S6 allows you to set 2 temperature trigger modes, and there are 4 fan speeds available for each active mode. The active mode will then run the fans at the speed needed to cool your component. The front of the unit also has an indicator light that shows the fan speed the unit is running at, and thankfully AC Infinity provided an option to have this light turn off after a few seconds. I've been using the S6 now for about 10 months to cool my Integra processor, and it's done a great job keeping it from overheating. The fact that it's an enclosed entertainment center with no ventilation caused the heat to build up, and in turn caused the processor to get a little hotter than I was comfortable with. But once I threw the S6 into the mix to exhaust the heat out the back, the Integra stays nice and cool, which in turn gives me a little peace of mind not having to worry about it. Moving on, next we have the Aircom S9, which is basically an Aircom S6 as far as features go, but it's in a bigger chassis with 1 more fan. It also brings up the total CFM of the unit to 210 compared to 100 CFM of the S6. The Aircom S9 that we have here is a top exhaust, and I should also mention that the fans on the S6 have a noise rating of 20 dB, and the S9 comes in at 21 dB, so they're both pretty quiet. And like all of AC Infinity products, the build quality of the S9 is great. Rated to have up to 30 pounds of additional components stacked on top of it. This gives you a lot of different options as far as positioning and laying out your gear. But one thing to keep in mind here is if you're using this as a top exhaust cooler, you need to leave enough space between the components so that the hot air can escape. And you also need to consider how the exhausted heat is going to affect the components placed on top of the cooler. Another option would be to go with the rear exhaust cooler like the Aircom T8 that we have here. It has the same weight rating as the S9, but you don't have to worry about blocking the airflow if you do stack something on top of it. The T8 is similar to the S9 in size and number of fans, but it offers more features that set it apart from the others. And the biggest one is the LCD display, which allows you to actively monitor the temperature and set variables, like at what temp the fans turn on and off, 6 fan speeds so you can decide exactly how fast you want them to spin, and an audible alarm that lets you know that the temps are getting a little too high and you might want to check out your system. You also get Smart Mode, which is basically an energy-saving mode that allows the fans to change speeds depending on the temperature. It also allows you to set the fan speed so the unit doesn't ramp up to its max speed, which may not be desirable in some situations because of the increased fan noise. This mode is really nice if you just want to set it and forget it. Looking at the front control panels of the T8 and the S9, I think it's obvious that the T8 has a lot more going on than the S9 does. And I think going over what each button does will kind of show the difference in a more visual way. Starting with the mode control buttons on the S6 and S9, these allow you to cycle through various operating modes. The available options for these 2 modes are on, auto, smart, and off. Then there's the fan speed control, which does exactly that. controls the fan speeds in whatever mode you choose, which are indicated by the fan speed light here in the middle. And again, as I mentioned earlier, there are a total of 4 fan speeds to choose from. Now moving on to the Aircom T8, you have the mode button. Below that is the leaf button, which turns the screen lights off and will also change the display from Fahrenheit to Celsius. To the right of the display, you get the up and down buttons that are used to change the temperature settings, display brightness, alarm temps, and the speeds of the fans. And that's pretty much it for the buttons on these units. The big difference here is the LED display on the T8. The convenience this adds is really nice because with it, you're able to see right away the changes you're making to the cooler. So there's no confusion about settings like what mode you're in, fan speeds, etc. I also personally feel that this is worth the extra $40 over the S9, but of course that's a decision you'll have to make for yourself. Looking around the backs of these units, you're going to see that they're pretty much the same. They all have an AC input for power, but the T8 also comes with 2 USBs so you can daisy chain other fans. It also has grills on the back because it is a rear exhaust. As far as programming these coolers, I think the best thing to do in order to keep this video a reasonable length is to refer to the PDF, which can be downloaded from AC Infinity's website. It does a great job of walking you through the entire setup process, and it's a great reference in case you need to troubleshoot your settings. Now, something that I do want to quickly mention is just how well these units are made. I was actually really surprised when I got these by just how heavy they are, and although I wasn't able to find an exact weight on them, they are pretty substantial feeling. No doubt this has to do with the aluminum and steel construction, which would also explain how they're able to stack up to 30 pounds on these without any problems. All of the Aircom coolers also come with high quality dual ball bearing PWM controlled fans rated at 67,000 hours before failure. And I can personally attest to the quality of AC Infinity products because I've been using their stuff in my home theater for quite some time. To be more specific, I've been using 6 of these cloud plates and 2 of their single cooling fans to keep everything in my component rack nice and cool. I've also been using an Aircom S9 in my living room with 0 problems. Now in this video, I've shown you a few cooling solutions from AC Infinity, but there is one more that I think should be mentioned here because it's a great way to cool entertainment centers or closets or any other type of area that needs ventilation. To tackle entertainment centers, AC Infinity offers the AirPlate series of coolers, and as you can see here are available in many different configurations to cover pretty much any situation you may have. For closets, they have the Airframe series, which are larger to move more air and come with a built-in LCD control panel. So make sure you head over to AC Infinity's website to check out those as well as all of their high-quality cooling solutions. And with that, I think it's a good time to go ahead and wrap up this video. I want to give a big thanks to AC Infinity for sponsoring this video and for all of the support they've given to our channel. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. And as always, have an awesome day.